Hi, I'm so excited to have Mia Wisinski with me today. Mia is a playful parenting educator with Playful Heart Parenting, and we're just going to have a really candid conversation about play and connecting with your kids and just how that incorporates into parenting and even things like holding boundaries with our kids and the way we communicate with our kids. And I don't know, I'm really excited. I've been following Mia for a little while on Instagram, and she is just full of lots of different ideas and games and fun, silly things you can do just to connect more with your kiddos. I definitely will link her Instagram and her website in the show notes because I want everyone to give her a follow. I think that there's just so much healing even to be found in just incorporating her games and ideas. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, Mia. I would love to hear the backstory of like, I know you mentioned to me before we were recording that you have like a theater background, but I want to hear a little bit more about how did Playful Heart Parenting even come about? What inspired you? Yeah, all the things.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, Jesse. Yes, theater girl here, musical theater major, performer, singer, songwriter, and traveled the world performing, and then became a theater educator, director, and then I became a stepmom. And so all these like shoulds of parenting, I felt like weighing on me, and I really kind of lost touch with that playful, goofy, creative theater person because, a lot of theater people are still really playful because it's our job to play on stage and play pretend and be open and vulnerable. And um, I would consider that like one of my best qualities as a human and as a friend and as a grown up. But then I really felt bogged down by all this pressure from society, but also from like Instagram and Pinterest and just from myself. Like I was like, oh, I'm a parent now. Okay, like I guess I better get stern and serious and like take everything really seriously. And I really lost touch with I still was silly and played, but it was more like those moments were reserved for when everything was good and fun. And I didn't incorporate it more into my daily interactions throughout the day with my stepdaughter. And then I had my son in 2021 and had really bad postpartum anxiety. And I just really like couldn't even find that part of myself anymore. Like she felt gone. And so as I healed from that, as I worked through that with therapy and just with time and support, I started to come back to that part of me in little doses. And I started to see a huge shift in my relationship with my stepdaughter, in the whole family dynamic, and how I approached frustrating moments or challenging moments in parenting or stress. Um, and it really led me to go down this path of diving into playfulness, more like making it my priority. Like how much can we laugh together today? How silly can I be with this? How can we make this a game? And that's ultimately what led to Playful Heart Parenting because I kind of saw a lack in the online space. There's so many great parenting accounts and that have truly changed my life. It with ways we can be more conscious and respectful parents. But I didn't see a lot of play, actual ideas for playfulness other than like make this sensory bin or play this game, like stuff with stuff, not just like creative, kind of like this theater improv game vibe that I grew up with and that is so fun for me and my kids to play and connect with each other. And so I thought, I guess I'll start to share some of our stuff that's fun and makes us laugh. And it just turned into that.
What have you seen come about from putting your games out online? Because I'm sure it just started with you just
Mm.
offering up ideas, right? Of like, hey, here's something fun you can try with your kiddos today, or here's something silly you can do after dinner. What have you seen from the community that's starting to try out some of these things?
Yeah, well, when I first started, vividly remember talking to my friends, like video chatting them on Marco Polo back and forth, and I was like, I kind of feel like, who do I think I am teaching parents ways to play with their kids? Doesn't like everybody knows this? I feel kind of dumb saying this. Like, doesn't everybody knows how to do this? And then it was quickly like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, a lot of people don't feel like this is natural,
Mm.
or their parents weren't playful with them and they don't even really, it feels foreign to them. Or like me, they're just so deep into the stress and the weight of the responsibilities of parenting that they feel like the fun rug was ripped out from under them and they just like don't they've lost access to that part of themselves and they need just a little we could all, including myself, use more actual ideas and inspiration for like, hey, try this game, try this silly tactic. Because when our brains are so full of the stress, like we're not always able to tap into that creative, playful side right away, of course. So I quickly saw and have heard from thousands of parents like, oh my gosh, you're right. It works. Like this is making everything lighter. My lighter is like the key word here I'm hearing all the
Mm.
time is like my house feels lighter. My home feels
Mm.
lighter. This season feels lighter, which is huge because we want to enjoy this season, right? But that's just so much easier said than done. It's really hard. So I really feel like this is the missing link with a lot of stuff out there
Mm.
to have joy.
I love that. And, one of the things that I noticed when I was checking out your Instagram is that you talk about the healers, the Bluey family. That was in your bio.
I literally just updated my bio yesterday. I was like, babe, to Steve, I was like, babe, I think I'm going to find my ideal audience with this line here. I'm
I
going to
mean,
put the
but
healers in there. And he was like,
right
okay,
away,
good
I
luck.
knew what you meant. And around the time that you had your son is when I believe Bluey kind of came onto the scene. And I
Mm,
I know that this is so random, but I kind of want to stop and talk about Bluey for a minute because I
yeah, let's
think
do it.
I know I'm not the only one because I've had conversations with a lot of friends where I think when that first season came out and we're like watching these episodes and we're seeing Bandit and Chili and the games that they're playing with their kids, I think there's two general feelings that I noticed come up. And they came up for me, but they've also come up with a few other moms I've talked to. The first is inspired, of like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want that vibe. I want that energy. I want that playfulness and that fun and that intentionality. And then right away, almost like this feeling of maybe insecurity or a feeling of like not being fully capable. And I know you mentioned that like there's, people, and I'm one of them, where like play doesn't necessarily feel the most natural. And I'm kind of wondering if you could unpack that a little more. Do you think that there is secretly a bandit and a chili inside of all of us, and we
Oh
just
my
need to
gosh.
learn how to tap into that? Yeah, like tell me your thoughts. Like, what do you think about that?
Let's just go ahead and talk about this for the whole rest of the podcast,
All
and
our favorite
rename the
episodes, all the
episode.
ones we cry on.
Yes, and just like that, like how to find your inner bandit and chili. Because yes, we all have an inner bandit and chili,
Mm.
and it's like, okay, I have done posts about this in the past. It's been a while. I need to bring it back up again because I could talk about this forever because it's so interesting and I really see both sides. So yes, you nailed it with the two different feelings I see, at least with people talking about it online. It's like either they're inspired, like this is aspirational parenting, like, and for our family, it's like, yes, we feel very inspired by it. We feel it's a very realistic look at families,
Mm.
especially when you consider that it's just a 7-minute episode and, you know, you can play for 7 minutes, but also they show real stuff too. There's times where the parents say no to play. There's times where they're stressed out and Chili needs a 20-minute break and she snaps. They do show that, right? But yes, there is a lot of pretend play, which is pretty much what I'm all about, but not the pretend play where you're just sitting and playing Barbies all day. It's where you're like turning into a character or doing a funny voice or acting like totally clueless, like Born Yesterday, right? Like that seems like it would take so much energy, but if you do it in your own way,
Mm.
it's like the kids love it because they love the power reversal of like you don't know anything and they know everything, and just incorporating that into your day is so powerful. But that's another tangent. And then there is this feeling of like Bluey ruined it for everyone, Bandit ruined it because now our kids are going to expect us to be like that.
Mm.
And how what I really want to say, and I don't know because maybe there are kids out there that are saying like, why aren't you more like the healers? I've never experienced our kids saying that, and we're certainly not playing around the clock. Like, yes, you're seeing that from me on Instagram because that's my niche. That's what I'm putting out there. That's what I'm focusing on. I'm not vlogging my every second of of my day. You're not seeing me snap or lose it or be frustrated or cranky, even though I do talk about that. I'm honest about that on there. Um, but I don't think our kids are comparing us to Bandit and Chili. I think we are
Mm.
longing to be Bandit and Chili. And it's so hard that it can feel really frustrating to like have to be faced with that. To be faced with, oh, I wish I was able to do this. I wish I was more like this.
Mm.
And it's also a cartoon. So, and they're dogs. I've heard Joe Brum himself, the creator of Bluey, on an interview say, they're dogs, okay? Like when he's faced with this question, like dogs love to play. And so they're going to be extra energetic and playful. So maybe we're not going to be as physically like bouncing off the walls like Bandit is. Um, but that energy, that silly, playful, lighthearted energy is totally attainable.
Mm.
Maybe not, I know not maybe, definitely not 24/7 for anyone because that's not human and that's not healthy. And even in Bluey, we see Bandit be depressed and sad on the beach, right? Where he like
Mm.
gathers up
Mhm.
his anger or his sadness and he throws it out into the ocean and everyone's like, "What's Bandit sad about?" We see that it's not attainable nor should it be something we strive for to be silly and clown our way out of every moment and playful in every moment. Like all feelings are human and welcome. But we can achieve it more than we probably think we can if we just try. If we start in small ways and
Mm.
we try to focus on it, if you dedicate a whole day, just one whole day to looking for any opportunity to be playful, you would really surprise yourself with your own
Mm.
creativity instead of, oh, they ruined it for me, I'll never be this way, but you might. And that's also what I'm here to do with Playful Heart Parenting is just like, if you have no idea where to start, like, okay, here's my free, I just put up today, like, here's a free bingo play break, like play break bingo, put it on your fridge. Here's some really easy quick things you can do if you're like, I literally have nothing, my brain is mush. Because Bandit and Chili, they have writers, they have Joe Brum like writing the script for them, right? Like they're not, they have some help here. So just think of me as your personal script writer for your silly moments until you can twist them into your own.
Yeah.
um yeah, I could talk about Bandit and Chili all day. They're the
I
goats, they're the
love
best.
that. Yes, I love that. Would you say that taking the first step is kind of maybe the hardest part? When you said like, like there's like a part of us that like we just need to try it. I feel like sometimes, and maybe not so much anymore because I've gotten past that hurdle, but I feel like there was a season where there was a part of me that didn't even want to try. Like I had this resistance. But then once I got past that initial, like, Jess, just sit down and just set a timer and just do something for 20 minutes and just have fun. Once I got past that, it was like, oh, this is no big deal. I was making it out to be so much bigger and more draining than it actually was. Would you say like that you notice that with other parents where there's like this resistance to even trying, but then once you do, it it kind of like clears the runway for you to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, I've gotten some. Yes. Well, first I'll say like setting a timer for 20 minutes and sitting down and like forcing yourself to play. Actually a lot.
Yeah, I don't do that
That's a
anymore.
lot.
Just a PSA, I don't do that anymore.
But that's a lot and that's great, but I don't think we have to force ourselves to do that like a chore. If you want to and you feel like this is going to be really helpful for me, I'm going to immerse myself. Like I am not one of these people out here telling you the shoulds or shouldn'ts because I can't stand that, okay? Like nobody needs more of that. If you want to do that, great. I think that's wonderful. But you don't have to. Like talking about like pop out from around the corner and make the loudest fart noise you can, and then be like, "Whoa, be you!" Excuse me, I don't know. Like, or if that's not your jam, like balk like a chicken, or just make a funny face at them. Um, I'm talking like a 2-second thing
Mm.
that is just gonna like capture their attention and like make the eye contact and then a little smile and a little giggle. Like, and I have a resource called Little Moments for Big Laughs that is chock full of little things like that aren't taking any time to do. They're
Mm.
like, you can do them while you're making breakfast, while you're in the car, while you're
Yeah.
eating lunch. while you're running to the door, while you're in the bathroom and they're coming in there. Um, like just these little things that aren't like, I like to call it playfulness because yes, it's play, but it's not like what we traditionally think of when we think of pretend play, where you're like putting on a cape and a mask and getting props and like going into the playroom for an hour and wrestling, which is
Yeah, that
great and
sounds
fun too.
exhausting.
But I don't always have the capacity to do that, especially right now with like a toddler and a baby.
Mm.
My husband, he's got a whole nother level of energy for that physical, like roughhousing kind of stuff. And that's great. But my style is more the like creative little moments. And so, yes, I've gotten messages recently. One of them said, okay, to be really honest with you, I was annoyed by your content when I first found you because it just seemed like more work and more shoulds, but something inside of myself told me to follow you anyway because I also it's kind of like the bluey thing. It's like that seems like a lot of work, but something I'm torn because something inside of me longs for that.
Mm.
And she said it took her a while to come around to actually trying something, but she just tried something one day and I don't even remember what it was. It was some kind of like her son was saying like it was a conflict thing where he was saying, "You're making me do this because you're mean," and then she just turned into the mean character, and she was like, "Yes, I'm mean," and I like and just played it up in a silly way, and he started laughing, and it like clicked. She was like, "Oh,
Mm.
that's what she means." Like, just trying something and seeing the connection and how it just dissolves tension like that because kids absorb the energy of the moment. And
Mm.
so if the energy is tense and negative, like they're going to reflect that back and we're going to reflect it back. And then if we're bringing some lightness and sturdiness and safety through our ability to be a little bit of playful or humorous, not to dismiss their feelings, right? Because sometimes it's not appropriate. So we're not trying to like make them laugh while they're in the middle of crying necessarily or having a tantrum because they get to feel those feelings. We're not saying we need to distract them from those, but to just kind of dissolve some of the tension, it can really take a lot less than
Mm.
we think. And one of the things I like to talk about is, and before we wait for the moments of conflict to try something, it's like this little bingo card I made, or this the little moments for big laughs, like just trying something for the sake of fun when there isn't anything at stake, when you don't have an agenda. Um, Pop out and surprise them with something silly when things are good, so you can kind of practice and start working the silliness muscle because it does feel really weird for some people. And it doesn't have to look like my theatrical silliness, but you find your own
Mm.
silliness. Can you make yourself laugh? Because, spoiler, we actually need this way more than the kids.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, to answer, that was a long answer for your question, but yeah, um, the hardest part is to start when you're, especially if you're like feeling resistant to it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I love the ideas that you're giving of like 2 seconds.
Hmm.
Simple. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Doesn't have to be anything draining. We're not having to dress up. I mean, you can if you want, but it's not, it can be the most bare bones kind of playfulness. And I love that permission slip to keep it simple. I want to back up because you mentioned, like, there's these tense moments that playfulness can kind of help diffuse and just add some more levity to. I think we don't realize as parents what a powerful tool playfulness can be. So I'm wondering, could you speak a little bit more to that? Like, what would be an example? I know you kind of gave us one, but like, are there a couple more of, here's a moment where maybe your kiddo's resisting something, but here's a game that you can try or something silly you can do to help bring them back online or bring them back to a place of fun and cooperation and that connection. But what are what have you noticed as far as being good tactics there?
Yeah, 1000%. So 1000% so much that I just finished, it's kind of still in development. I'm going to relaunch it this summer, a whole program called Activate Play Mode, which
Mm.
is all about a more playful approach in parenting, especially when it comes to this.
Mm.
Now, of course, I talk a lot about, but the disclaimer is we've got to practice it in the moments that are not tense, so that we can all get used to like having that relationship, and we're not pulling it out just as a tool. Our kids are going to sense that it's going to backfire, or they're
Mm.
going to be craving that energy so much that they latch onto it, and then we get even more frustrated. Um, and so what Activate Play Mode is I've because I could throw out ideas all day for like brushing teeth, transitions, getting in the car seat, cleaning up your mess, getting dressed, power struggles. But what I found is that it's really hard to memorize like somebody else's little ideas or
Mhm.
stories of what worked. But what's more helpful is like deconstructing the core strategies underneath what's working in all these different examples, so that if you just internalize that strategy, then in the moment, in the heat of the
Mm.
moment, you're going to be able to like pick one and try it on your
Mhm.
own in your own creativity. And I'm in these groups right now with these women all over the world, and we're sharing what we're trying as we go through the program together. And every day I hear something that's so brilliant. I would have never thought of it because we all have different brains. And
Yeah.
so like my friend Sarah, who is Italian, but I think she's living in the Netherlands, I think. She gave this story yesterday where her son didn't want to get dressed. And so she was trying a few of these different strategies. And I'll share some of the strategies in a second, give you a little like preview of it. Um, so the first strategy she tried was what I call playing the opposite, where she said, "Don't you dare put on your pajamas. I'm going to be so angry," in like a silly way, which that is one that works with my son, 3.5, and even with my 9-year-old stepdaughter. They love it. They love when I get so angry, I like roar and stomp and chase them
Mm.
because they did exactly what I want them to do. And they know it's a game. It's not reverse psychology because like they're in on it. I'm not actually trying to manipulate them. But that didn't work that time. And so one of the other things I talk about in Activate Play Mode is we have to expect it not to work, because if our playfulness is contingent on it working,
Mm.
then it wasn't the true spirit of playfulness, because we had this ulterior
Mm.
motive, and we have like kids can sense that. And like if we're gonna really truly strive to be more playful, we have to do it for the sake of the lighthearted atmosphere,
Yeah.
not for the sake of control, which is
Yeah.
so hard. It's so hard. It's hard for me. But so that didn't work. And she was like, oh, dang it. But instead of like going to frustration mode, she was like, I'm going to continue to activate play mode. I'm going to try another strategy. And then she put on her son's pajama pants. Like she like put her feet through them and her pulled them up to like her ankles. And she said, I waddled like a penguin and became a penguin character. And I waddled into his room just with no words, I don't think, just waddled in and looked at him. And he was cracking up. And then she just stared at him. And then she went, ah! And then she screamed. And then she waddled away like fast, like she was running away from him. And he chased her. And so that strategy I call like general nonsense. Like, be just nothing. It's not supposed to make sense. Like, why
Mhm.
are you
Yeah.
screaming and waddling away? It doesn't make sense, but you're just doing something that doesn't make sense, whatever comes to your mind. Becoming a characters and role play is another strategy, the penguin. And then she followed the laughter from there, and they laughed and they had a great like little core memory. And then he got his pajamas on because he's feeling
Mm.
connected and safe and close to her. And it's
Mhm.
not a power struggle. And it was completely diffused just because she was intentional. She took a breath and decided to continue
Mm.
activating play mode. So I just named some strategies, but let me dive into one. If you're listening to this and you're like, ooh, strategies, I need some. Let me tell you my favorite one. This is the first one that's discussed in the course, and I call it personification. And by the way, these aren't textbook categories. Like Mia made these up. I made these up, but I just they are from my own brain to compartmentalize these strategies. But in real life, you're often like blending a bunch of them, so you don't have to, write this down and take notes and stick to just one. Like let it inspire you to do whatever. But personification is what I call bringing an inanimate object to life as to use as a buffer when there's any kind of tension. And so um, I just did it the other day when my son, he often gets like so hangry that he won't even come eat. He just like sits down on the floor and he's like, oh, and he's just cranky or whining or whatever. And I'm like, I just know if he'll have one bite of food, he will feel so much better. Like just get him to eat one bite of food. And so I'll often personify the food and I'll
Mm.
say like, hey, you, come over here. And then I'll say as myself, what? Who said that? And I'll like look around and then he'll like get a little smile. And I'll say, I really don't know who said that. Hey, me, down here on the table. Who's saying that? And then he'll say, and he'll like point to the food. Oh, the food's talking? Yeah, I aren't you gonna eat me? I'm lonely over here, or whatever it is. And then he'll like run over to it. Does it always work? No, but it works a lot of the time. Or
Mm.
even personifying your own hand. I had another woman in one of the groups right now. I loved it. She had one hand come out and was like the happy, joyful hand at bedtime. And then the other hand kept popping up and saying, "Hey, I'm trying to sleep. Keep it down, pipe down. I'm tired over here. You're making too much noise." And like go back to sleep. And it's so fun hearing other people's like voices, character voices they do. Um, but that's another one. And there's endless stories with so many creative things that other parents have come up with that I would have never come up with just using that strategy of
Mm.
personification. So if you're listening to this and you're like looking for somewhere to start, that's a great one to start with where you don't have to have an agenda, right? Maybe you're about to take a bite of your own food and it's like, please don't eat me. I have a wife and 4 kids. I don't know, like just your broccoli's begging for mercy, or you're getting dressed and the shirt's like, oh no, don't put me on. Your armpits are too stinky. I don't know, something silly that involves yourself and not like getting your kid to do what you want. And then you can establish that and then you can, try it out for some cooperation for sure because it is really powerful for that.
Yes. Okay. I love all of these ideas. This is amazing. And I also really appreciate that you hit on the point of you want to detach from that control piece, right? Of like going after it with this specific outcome in mind. I think it's very wise to like keep bringing us back to the heart of why do this? Why be playful? Why try these things? It's not to control our kids. It's to bring in that connection to, yeah, it could encourage cooperation for sure, but to make that the one and only motive, I think it kind of does detract from all the joy and the gifts and the value that comes from that. So I really appreciate that you even mentioned that because I also can notice when I do silly things or I'm coming up with rhymes or whatever. Sometimes I do have this like little bit of frustration that creeps up because I'm like, it's not working. And yeah, we do have to kind of refocus. Why are we doing this? And yeah, maybe it won't work, quote unquote work every single time, but that doesn't diminish the value of it at all. So I really appreciate you hitting on that. Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I love that you mentioned how you use some of these tactics, or maybe different ones for your 9-year-old. Um, I I wonder if there's any parent listening today who maybe thinks that their kiddos are getting too old for this. And they're thinking, oh, they wouldn't enjoy it. They wouldn't laugh at it. It wouldn't connect with them. What kinds of encouragement could you offer them? The parents who maybe have those older kiddos, or the kiddos who maybe are a little bit, I don't know, they maybe the kiddos who seem to maybe they've lost a little bit of that playful spirit.
Mm. Hmm. It's such a great question. And I had a really wonderful friend who I met through Instagram. I never got to meet her in person. She like suddenly passed away last year, and I still grieve like not getting to have more of these conversations
Mm,
with her. But I did an interview with her, and I'm so glad I got to ask her about this because she had teens, and was she and I really instantly connected over like the silly, playful stuff. And she still had that relationship with her
mm,
kids, and so I wanted to, because I don't have teens yet. I do have my 9-year-old stepdaughter, and I'll speak to that in a second. But as a theater educator, especially someone who worked with middle schoolers a lot, when they're starting to like not be little kids anymore and they're starting to be teens and they're being more self-conscious, kids love to play even when they're
mm,
teens. They just
yeah,
kind of like need the permission, that which is where
mm,
theater is great. If you're out there listening and you're thinking about theater for your kids, yes, I think everyone should do theater at some point in their life. It really helps with confidence and having the permission to have that lighter, playful side of yourself come
mm,
out and shine and not worry so much about being cool. Side note, but Kiara had some beautiful things to say about like how as we grow older, as we become teens, our load gets heavier. We
mm,
become less innocent. We become bogged down by heaviness and hard things and sad things and hormones, and like it's just life is not as carefree anymore. And so as the load gets heavier, playfulness makes it lighter.
mm,
And so maybe you're not going to be like picking up your teen's foot and dialing it like a phone and calling the pizza person, which is like my go to silly thing with little kids. but also maybe, I don't know, I might do that with my kids when they're teens and if they roll their eyes, whatever. But you can play these silly improv games, making up funny stories or like making up
Mm.
a jingle together or just do a weird noise or I don't know. I mean, I have so many specific ideas, so I won't toss out any more ideas. I'll talk to the philosophy of it, which is we have to be willing to have them roll their eyes at us or say you're embarrassing me. We have to be able to push past that, I
Mm.
think,
Mm.
because if we're so afraid of that happening, it might stop us from even trying in the first place. And there's one story I share in Activate Play Mode that was shared with me by a mom who has a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. This was for the personification section where I share stories from other parents and how they've applied these strategies in real life. And hers was making her hands turn into a spider and a scorpion. And they had names. And this was something she did with them when they were little kids. But then she started watching my content and she realized, you know, what if I tried this again? Like I think my kids are too old for this, but what if they're not? And she started like um I think it was when they didn't want to put their screens away, but it like screen time was up or something. And so she was like, screen time is up. And she like made the spider come out and they remembered these little characters and they like grabbed the screen and they were laughing. And then now they like to be woken up by those characters every morning. And they're literally teens. Like
Mm.
we forget, like, I think back to when I was 13, I was totally still a kid, you know? Like, I still
Mm.
liked watching Mr. Rogers. I still like watching Mr. Rogers. I'm 38 now. We all have that inner child. And so I just loved that story because she decided to try it. And now it's like this sweet little thing that she brought back that they weren't actually too old for. We just assume they're too old for it.
Mm.
And maybe your child is going to roll their eyes and be like, don't ever do that again. That was so cringe. Okay, whatever. But you know what? You're putting this lighthearted, welcoming, warm vibe out there that is going to pay off because
Mm.
I'm sure everybody out there listening is going to want their kids to come feel safe to talk to them when they're teens or when they're adults. And part of the way we establish that safety and that trust is to be that warm, lighthearted, like I'm a safe place.
Mm.
And playfulness is not by any means the only way to establish that, but it is one of the most overlooked ones. Like, you know, if someone's being silly and lighthearted and humorous with me, I'm instantly going to feel safe with them. I'm going to feel like they're approachable. And I want that for my kids for sure. So, anyone out there with a teen, I would say, yes, a lot of my ideas and games you're going to see maybe you're going to work best from like ages 2 to 10, but don't write them off.
Mm.
I even enjoy playing these games with adults. You know, as a theater person on the road, we would play some of these silly games, or even with my husband, who's not a theater person. When I met him, we played some of these games where we like turn the sound off on the TV and we talk for the characters. I mean, we literally watched a whole 2-hour movie on mute and talked for them one night, just me and him. And so I don't think that we ever outgrow playfulness. I think we just,
Mm.
it's stamped out of us by society and by life and by stress, but it's still in there and it's definitely something worth trying to access with our teens and older kids.
Mm. Thank you so much for speaking to that. Is there anything else that we didn't address that you want to dive into, or any just last little bit of encouragement, or just some, I don't know, some mindset, anything that can help a mom who might be listening today and is like, okay, I think I might be ready to try this.
Yeah, I guess you know what I'll share. It's something that I'm going to add to activate play mode because it's just something my eyes were just open to yesterday. In one of our groups, my friend Masha shared that she um, had this like freak accident happen in the kitchen where a glass pan exploded and shattered. It was all over the kitchen and she just
Mm.
like froze.
Mm-hmm.
And she paused for a second and she said she was just all alone. Like her kids weren't there. This wasn't for her kids, this was for herself. She decided to activate play mode because she wanted to scream and swear and yell and rage, which also is okay. Like those feelings are valid and welcome to. I'm not saying like we don't clown our way out of everything, but she wanted to be gentle with herself. And so, and playfulness doesn't always look like being a clown and doing a funny voice and a fart noise. It can look like being gentle
Mm.
and lighthearted too. And she literally sent us a video in the group right then with the glass shattered everywhere. She still had like chocolate splattered on her face. And she made up this little song. I can't remember how it went, but it was like, little explosion all on the stove. If I'm gentle, it starts with me. Like she just made up a little ditty because one of my
Mm.
strategies is turning things into a musical,
Mm.
like into a real life musical. And she sang and was playful to herself. And she was coming to us with tears. And I got chills from that message because I was like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, I didn't even really think about how this stuff could help us like heal ourselves. And
Mm.
maybe we got yelled at when we were little.
Mm.
That was certainly the case with my friend. And maybe we need this more than we realize, this gentleness, this playfulness. And so she asked herself, what would one of the questions I like to have parents ask themselves in these moments where they feel like they're going to explode is to pause and ask, what could playfulness look like right now?
Mm.
And she asked it for herself. What could
Mm.
playfulness look like right now? And it totally helped her stay calm, and like it wasn't
Mm.
a crisis, and she like soothed her fight or flight. Um, so that's how powerful this stuff is. And I'm really excited to continue learning about how it can help me in my moments of fight or flight. Not just for my kids, obviously a lot of this is for our kids, but for ourselves too. So that's kind of one of the newer things my eyes have been opened to.
Mm, that is beautiful. I love that story. And there's power in music. So I love that even
Mm,
just turning things into a melody, into a poem for ourselves, a rhyme, like there, I can see how that's super helpful in any situation. But then also, too, I love just the encouragement to use it on yourself, because I think we also need the lightheartedness, the gentleness. Life feels really serious when you're
mhm,
an adult, but especially as a parent, and especially when you have multiple kiddos, and it's just like, oh my
mhm,
gosh, like there's just
mhm,
so much going on.
mhm,
So I just love that permission of like, we can take a step back and just incorporate a little bit more lightheartedness, even for our own sake, because life
mhm,
shouldn't have to feel so serious all the time. And I think that our kids pick up on that when that is our energy and our attitude. And kind of going back to what you said earlier about how we want to have those teens who feel comfortable coming to us. I think it starts with us realizing right now they might kind of see me as I'm serious mom all the time. That's my only mode. And now it's time to show them a different side of me that I forgot even existed. So I just love that you spoke to that. And that's a really powerful story with chocolate on her face and everything. I
mhm.
love it. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much, Mia. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you, what kind of resources they can get started with?
Yes. Well, thank you again for having me. And I love the point you just made about how it starts when they're young and the serious mode. And I want to say, yes, and my theater term, yes, and it's never too late. So,
Yeah.
like, even if you're listening and
Mm.
your kids are a little bit older, and that's something I learned from my late friend Kiara too. It's literally never too late, even if your kids are adults. I have some grandmothers in the group, and
Mm.
I love it. It's truly never too late to just take a more gentle, lighthearted approach. I'm learning every day alongside of all of us. We're all learning it every day more and more. So it's never too late. So if you have Instagram, that's where I'm most active. I never could get with the TikTok. I could barely keep up with the Instagram. But I'm on Instagram sharing almost daily different little reflections and ideas and games and videos to show this stuff in action, because sometimes reading a parenting book can inspire you, but it really helps to see it in real life being, in action. And if you like that vibe, there is a free play break bingo sheet I made that you can print and slap up on the fridge and try a game a day, try a square a week, whatever. It's kid friendly. Your kids can read it and choose if they want. Easy little things to get the fun started just for the sake of fun. This is not like solutions for tense moments yet. It's just, but it can be a great mood
Mm.
lifter if you're having a tense day. Um, and then if you want more resources, if you're not on Instagram, I'll say I also have a weekly email, which is not spammy, I promise. I share a little reflection from the week, something I've learned from my own life, and I give you a little invitation to apply it to
Mm.
your life. And then I have Little Moments for Big Laughs, which is a little collection of an ebook and a reflection journal and tips for just getting started to feel more comfortable being silly. Like literal beginner's tips is Silly 101 if that feels totally uncomfortable for you. And then depending on when you're hearing this, it will either be, still in progress or relaunched. But the Activate Play Mode program is for if you really are ready to dive in and kind of immerse yourself in trying to take a more playful approach, especially when it comes to like the tense moments and internalizing these strategies so that you can really practice every day and have a community of other parents in the support group supporting you and bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's where like the real transformation can happen. But yeah, those are all the things as of now.
I love it. Well, thank you again, Mia. I know that this conversation is going to be super helpful, super inspiring. And yeah, I think it's gonna, I don't know, reignite some hope that we can tap into that play, that we can connect with our kiddos on a whole new level that maybe we have forgotten. So I just really appreciate you sharing all these ideas and these tips, but also just the heart behind it too. Thank you again so much.
Thanks, Jesse.